Hey, how are you? Welcome back to Red Shoes Diary. Another beautiful day, sitting up here on the ridge in the shade. I hope you've had a excellent week. I hope that you've got to travel, wander around, see some good friends, make some laughter, noise, the whole 9 yards. Hope you're feeling fat and sassy or plumb lazy, whichever one you want to go with. Either one will work. Thankful for another great week. I've got a few chores done. I think me and this Fly B or whatever is going to have a bad day at the office if he keeps on. But it's been a good week. Got a few chores done. I was talking with a cousin just a little bit ago, and we was discussing about growing up out air conditioning stuff now, and how people are just about addicted to it. And other day, and when we grew up, we didn't have air conditioning. You pretty much had a fan in your window. You open your doors and left your screen doors out closed so the flies couldn't get in. Of course, there's always a fly swatter close by. It's good for flies, for kids' legs also. And we was discussing that, how much different it is now. People run, get into the air conditioner as soon as you get in the vehicle. Oh, it's got to be frosty in there and stuff. And the other day other week I had to work on a piece of equipment, between a tractor and hay roller. It plugs together, lights up the lights, let you know the roller's full, and push another button, it lets the twine out. But I had to redo the whole plug system where it plugs together, where it broke. And I'd replaced it years ago. So I got a different one, metal one, whatever. And I had it, everything's working great. So last Saturday I was having to do a couple more things to the roller, and I got done. And wire runs along the floorboard of the tractor, goes back there where everything plugs up behind the tractor. I seen a piece of tape, black tape, come off, so I thought, well, while I'm at it, let's tape all this up. Fix all that back, because that's where I had to fix it the other time about 15, 20 years ago. Well, the other day, I guess it's Monday, went to roll, was going to pull it out, get the chores done. Checked everything else well, raised the tailgate up, the light's supposed to come on, the lights ain't coming on. Well, this turns in, I put it all together, I thought, man, this thing's working great the other day. And where I first pulled it out, sort of underneath the tree there, out past the barn. Of course, as the sun changed it, it was on me. Well, a buddy of mine, he shows up. He goes, well, I figured by now, you probably be half done rolling. I said, well, I should have, but I've been at this for over an hour trying to figure out why this is not connecting. What is wrong here? I said, I took all this apart, so he kept watching me, and like I said, I'm at that now, hour and a half. Sun's beating down on me all the time. He goes, well, it's awfully hot. I'm like, yeah. And he kept watching me. He kept waiting to see if I was going to lose my temper, because it wasn't working. And long story, I'm like, well, he said, well, it's about hot. I said, well, yeah. I said, I was sort of in shade when it started. And I said, I figured it'd be a 5-minute fix. That was almost 2 hours ago. I said, I took it all apart, put it all back together, took it all back apart, trying to figure it out, and finally did something. He's over around that where I'd retaped that, and he wiggled something with them lights went to flicker. I said, hang on a minute. I said, I can tell you what it is now. I bet you $5. Went up there where I fixed it 15, 20 years ago. Apparently, when I'd picked that wire up and went to retape it, I must wiggle around whatever where I'd put it together, it broke again. So it barely was touching on and off. It was just touching on and off. So you're looking at, I still got to put part of it back together what I took apart. So at least a 2-hour job was a 5-minute fix. So, and then that's when I got aggravated. He said something. I said, no, I ain't aggravated because I'm here in the sun, hot and sweaty. I'm aggravated because idiot didn't think, okay, when you put this together before, everything worked perfectly fine. And you put it back and it's not working right. What's the very last thing you did in this system? The very last thing. Well, the very last thing was I retaped that bloody wire up there. if idiot just studied on that and took all that off, he'd been done 5 minutes to 2 hours bloody later. So I was more aggravated with myself than I was having to work on it all in the hot sun. But like I said, I had to laugh about that part, and luckily I'm out in the sun quite a bit, wandering around doing whatever. And old work truck stuff I use, I don't even have air conditioning in it. I mean, air conditioners roll the window down, just cruise out through there. So once I leave the house till I come back to the house, most of the time I'm not air conditioned, I'm doing something, which sort of helps me in the long run, be acclimated to how hot and nasty it is, thankfully. And the body still handles it. What little I do, it's not like I do a whole lot, but while I am out wandering around, it seems to handle it well. But, I got to thinking about that part, how sometimes in our life we are so busy. Well, when we look back, a lot of times we're blaming everything else for our aggravation, for our pain, for everything that's going on around us. Sometimes we don't like to stop and go, okay, where did I, I was on this path, this road, where did it go wrong? We don't stop and look at that. We don't look and go, oh, that was me. I made this choice, and that choice there has led to the rest of this disaster around me. I'm the maker of this. I did this. This was me. That's just, that's not me being mean, not trying to be smart, not nothing else. It's just truth of the matter. And accepting consequences is one of the hardest things there ever is. We don't like that. We don't like looking at ourselves in a mirror. We don't like looking and finding our own faults. It's easier, like even sitting in church, we're human, okay? We'll sit in church and look at people and we know their past. We know what they're doing or where they've been, what they come in, and we're like, oh, I was never like that. I done much better. Well, none of us without sin. None of us who have not made a mistake, not screwed up. It talks about 7 times 70s in forgiveness in the good book. Thank you, the good Lord's into that, but sometimes we don't do that. We hang on to it. Or when we come to realize we're at fault, we don't want to accept that fault. It makes us feel bad that we screwed up, we made a mistake. Looking in that mirror and facing the mirror when you don't have all this other stuff to keep your mind off of it, to allow you to, how would you put it? You allow yourself, okay, not, you don't face, you don't face what you really did yourself. It's easier to look at everybody else. It's easier to find fault in everybody else. It's easier to use excuses. It's awfully hard to stand in the mirror. It's sort of like with the phone. Everybody's busy with the phone nowadays. This. Going down the road, everybody's busy. They're always looking at it. I've heard schools are taking it away when the kids are going to school. They're there for school, not to be playing on the phone the whole time. It's like a lot of these workplaces. I'll turn the phones off. Lunch break, you can go look, check it out. I've seen construction zones, guys on the dozers, guys holding the flag, stop signs. Ain't a bit more paying attention to what's going past them, going and coming, because they're so busy looking at this. It's so important. All that's on there is so important. And people don't want to look at themselves no more. There's a passage in the Bible talk about going into a darkened room or a closet. Go in there, talk to the good Lord. And that's a hard thing to do, because if you're in there, you're by yourself. It's just you and Him. And He knows the truth, and you know He knows the truth. So you best be telling the truth while you're in there and talking to the man. Maybe find a little peace. There was not long ago, I heard a conversation. People's talking. A couple had problems. One of them had stepped outside the marriage. And then, things blowed up. They work to get it back together. And of course, people still bringing it up, blah, blah, blah. You know how that goes. The person that did it goes, and I reckon it finally just completely fell apart. But, well, we would have got it all back together if everybody just stayed out of our business. It's everybody else's fault. And I just want to go, no, if you had not stepped outside the marriage, that was your problem. That was your fault. You did that. If you never stopped outside the marriage, nobody else would have been in your marriage. It just been you and your spouse. And, you know, it's easier place to blame on everybody else instead of ourselves. And sometimes looking back's a little tough, folks. Sometimes also forgiving yourself for that and letting it go is. But you learn from your past. You try to become the better version of you today, so tomorrow will be a better day. That, you know, when you pass on and you leave, hopefully you've grown as a person, as a Christian especially, and became a person that, you know, when people talk about you, oh yeah, he did this or she did that, she was a good person. You know, that they don't really, some people will still bring up your past just to make themselves feel good. It ain't gonna matter. But hopefully the people that truly matter in your life, they know that person now. They know the person that got kicked down, knocked down, who made left turns instead of right, that should have went straight and went everywhere else, done a reverse. But each day we try to be that person. We try to be a better person, better version of ourselves. You cannot change the past, people. I do not care. I have heard people tell stories about their past, and you know, and you're looking at them going, that ain't what happened. But in their story, in their past, if anybody, they was perfect. And you're like, no, that ain't, you wasn't perfect, trust me. You know, I was around, I watched what all this stuff you did. And, you know, you can't change that. You accept responsibility for it. It's part of being an adult. You know, do that. Accept responsibility. Talk to the good Lord. Ask forgiveness. And then forgive yourself and let it go. I mean, if you see somebody else stumbling, don't be the stumbling block. Don't kick that out. Oh, you remember when you did that? You bad. You bad. You bad. You know, you act like you're trying to do better. You ain't. I know who you are. I ain't the person I once was. I'm not that man that was 35 years ago, before my daughter was born 30 years ago. I'm not that same person. I've tried to do better, and I pray I have done better, and I hope my legacy, when it's gone, the people that come to my funeral can tell my daughter something good or something about me making them laugh, or that I done something, you know, something about me has changed from that point. That the person, the old man that I once was, has done better. Hopefully that's what's going on. Anyway, folks, I'll let you go. I'm rattled enough, I guess. Got off sidetracks, whatever, but I hope wherever you're at, you have an excellent coming week. I hope you stay cool. I have a family reunion this week. It started in 1960. We was out for about 3 years there during 2020, about the COVID, everything. Everybody's worried about that, so we didn't get together. But hopefully it'll all go well Sunday. And one thing short, you show up with all my family people, you will hear people laughing, talking just as loud as I do, and they will be good eating. And people are not bashful eating. When the word amen is said, it's on. Trust me, there ain't no mercy when it comes to that. If you see one of my kids won't eat or won't talk, they either sick or they're an imposter, but there's something wrong, trust me. Well, folks, as always, hope the good Lord takes a liking to you not too soon. And until we meet again, prayers, love to you. As always, Austin.